The latest from podnews.net. The first end-to-end podcast creation for brands, Audioburst, launches today. After a successful funding round, Audioburst includes a number of proprietary features including sound processing, studio quality connections, automatic episode assembly and distribution to major platforms. We're incredibly sorry for the inconvenience. That's a statement from who else but NPR, after a configuration change messed up all the broadcasters' RSS feeds, adding hundreds of episodes and kicking off a large number of downloads of seemingly random shows for many. One correspondent tells us they managed to download 61 episodes of Planet Money for me overnight, a podcast I've never even subscribed to. They've fixed the issue, and we're told we're already speaking to PodTrack as to how best to address this. It also means our data for NPR in our podcast pages is well and truly messed up, so don't look. The BBC talked to potential US advertisers earlier this week, highlighting some work they're doing for targeted audio. They earn revenue outside the UK from advertising. The Daily from the New York Times is now doing 2 million downloads a day, according to publisher A.G. Zaltzberger. It also has a staff of 17 and has just hired its first international producer. And in case you're wondering, ignoring weekends, that's 963 terabytes of bandwidth a month. And if the Daily hosted on Amazon S3 like we do, that would be a $49,000 monthly bandwidth bill. Suddenly your Libsyn account doesn't seem so expensive, does it? Another one leaves Luminary. The podcast app has lost content from ESPN today. Meanwhile, also gone a bunch of Luminary podcast feeds on Apple Podcasts, which contain short promo shows and spammy advertising for the Luminary platform. The O2 Pod Meetup in Bangalore, the biggest podcasting event in India, happened at the end of April. We'll link to some notes from the event in our show notes and in our newsletter. US broadcaster Entercom has done a deal with Waze, a traffic app. Waze gets the radio.com content from Entercom, including local content, live stations, and podcasts, including this one. Entercom gets updated travel news on its radio stations. For live radio, there's much more use of smart speakers over weekends, says the Triton Digital Webcast metrics for January 2019. They also point out that mobile devices get most use in the mornings as well. NBC News is working on lots of podcasts. Slate expects nearly half of its revenue will come from podcasts this year. We'll link to an article on whether podcast advertising is effective and how you should use Facebook advertising for your podcast. Bill Clinton is planning a podcast. It's called Why Am I Telling You This? We know this because his people are attempting to register it as a trademark. Audioboom has a new logo. You'll see it at podnews.net today. Spotify supports timestamps in your show notes. We didn't know. They've also seemingly added official listen badges for your website, so we've updated our link generator pages accordingly. And our podcast pages now also link to Bullhorn, an app that has a call to listen feature to use your free phone minutes, not your data.